Hey everyone, this is a special bonus YouTube of our combo experience.
Yep, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
Fun.
yeah. So if you listen to this week's episode of Connecting the Dots with Danielle Leibovitz, you heard her talk about her experience with combo and why she decided to become a combo practitioner. And her story and the information that she provided about combo made me really want to do it, but I don't live near her or her network of combo practitioners. And so I really was not sure when or how I would be able to do it. But as Karen, who was a guest on this season of the show a little bit later, said, she was like, the combo will find you. And it found us.
Found us.
So if you haven't listened to this week's episode, I totally recommend you doing that before watching this. I mean, you can watch this. I mean, if you're already here, feel free to keep going, but you'll get like a really good explanation of what combo is and some of the benefits and how to prepare for it, just like all these things. And then I feel like this is just like a really in-depth description of our experience
Yeah.
doing it. We have a lot of notes. So if you see us looking down, it's just because we're making sure we're hitting all of the points that we want to, because there's
Quite a bit.
a lot to talk about. So we'll get started with how we found the combo practitioner who ended up providing a ceremony for us. So I follow a ton, we live in Dallas. I follow a ton of people in the health and wellness space in Dallas. And one of the people that I follow did like a Q&A. And one of the questions was about, I don't even remember what it was about, but I was interested in the answer because she was like, I'm not totally sure, but my friend is an expert. So I clicked on her friend's profile, and she is the owner of Natural Infusion Partners in Dallas. And I feel horrible. I don't know if her name is Dara or exactly how to pronounce her name, but she's the owner of Natural Infusion Partners. And she had an entire highlight dedicated to combo. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, I want to hear more about this. And so I clicked on the highlight, and it was from 2 days before, like her entire highlight. And it was her kind of detailing her experience with combo. And she, at the end of it, like, obviously I was so intrigued. So I read through the whole thing. And at the end of it, she was like, I want to bring Modern Combo, who facilitated a ceremony for her, to Dallas to Natural Infusion Partners who would be interested in doing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, have to do it. And the date was February 17th. That was when Natural Infusion Partners was bringing Modern Combo, which is a man named Todd and his wife, who came to her practice to do it. And so I asked Luke if we could kind of shift gears on our Valentine's Day plans and do this instead.
Yep. Very romantic. So she said she'd rather do that instead of going to dinner. And, I figured why not? At first I was obviously pretty skeptical. I had no clue what it was or anything like that, but she pretty much just told me, oh, it's like they put frog poison on you and it makes you purge out of your body. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So I kind of did some of my own research and, on the internet, and just kind of figured out that, why not? And especially since she really wanted to do it for Valentine's Day. So,
Yeah. So if you haven't listened to the episode yet, combo is the secretions from a green tree frog. I know that there's like more names and there's a scientific name for it, but that's the gist. That's found in the Amazon. And the process is kind of intense, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about it, but that's kind of why Luke was like, what the heck,
yeah.
at the beginning. Um, but it's really cool. So we'll kind of walk you through the whole experience, so we won't spoil that yet. But definitely a big difference between going to dinner with we wanted to go to this restaurant with a chef that's been uh, nominated for a James Beard Award. And so it was going to be like a fancy Valentine's Day dinner. And I was like, well, if we're already spending the money,
Might as well just do this.
let's switch it to this. So it all worked out. I was messaging with, gosh, I wish I knew how to pronounce her name, Dara or Dara. Um, and, we were just talking about it and she's like, okay, here's the sign up sheet. And so Luke was kind of on the fence about it for, I would say, like a week. And I was like, we got to book it. We got to book it. I kept checking like the signups to make sure that there was still slots. And finally, there was like one slot left. And I was like, snooze, you lose. Like, I'm still doing it. So I signed up for a 12:45 slot. And then Luke was like, well, I think that's when you realized you actually wanted to do it.
Yeah, that is. And well, I ended up clicking on it and kind of like how Kath was referring to earlier, like it being like Kambo kind of found her, was that when she clicked on it, it showed only one spot left. But then when I clicked on it, it still showed another spot open. So I
Yeah,
was
like
like,
one other.
okay, so if there's really just one more left, I might as well just do it. Why not?
Yeah. So I signed up for 12:45. He signed up for 1 o'clock. And then we were like, okay, we're in, we're solid, we're doing it, canceled our reservation. And yeah. So we did it on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, so I just worked from home that morning and then took a half day just because I didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into.
Yeah. And so you have to fast before you do Kambo. I'm sure every practitioner has a different amount of time that they recommend fasting for. But Modern Kambo told us 6 hours. And so since our time slots were at 12:45 and 1, we got up at like 6 a.m. that Friday and like chugged a smoothie. That we would have something in our bodies before, the rest of the day. And so yeah, that was kind of like our only real prep. We
Yeah,
didn't really
yeah, that was
do.
it. It was just having to fast.
I'm gonna get the dog. You can talk about
Okay.
when we got there. Oh.
Uh, so yeah, so we just like I think I went to like workout class early that morning and she made a smoothie so that we could go so that we didn't have to starve all day. But but yeah, so we got there and we were kind of running late a little bit, so we were like running around trying to find it in this shopping center, and then we realized it was on the second floor and we'd walked past it like twice. But
With our like yoga mats and big bag of like everything, water, crystals.
yeah, because we just didn't know what we were getting into. So
Yeah.
we ended up finding it. We go in there and we're just kind of waiting a little bit, and then I guess Dora comes out and she's like, "Oh, they actually just started one group of it." They're like, "But if y'all don't mind waiting a little bit, we'll just kind of put y'all in this back room here, and then y'all can do it." We're like, "Okay, yeah, that doesn't seem too bad." So we ended up going into the back room, and we waited there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
It was a long time. So basically there was like this miscommunication because Dara wanted it or thought that it would be kind of like how she runs Natural Infusion Partners. So like scheduling people every 15 minutes to do infusions. That's kind of how it works. And so she figured that Todd would just would go from person to person, putting the combo on, and then, in like 15-minute increments. And that's just not what ended up happening. He didn't know that she did that. And so I guess there were people from like 12 to 12:30 in the ghost time slots, and they had all been there. And he didn't know that there were more people coming, or I don't know. It was just
Yeah.
like a weird scheduling mix up. And then she had told him that we were like late, and he thought that that meant we were joining the ceremony that was already happening. And she thought that he would be coming back and forth to to like us and them. And so he was waiting for us to join the big group. She thought that he was coming back to, so like that's why we ended up waiting for so long, because it was just like this really weird mix up, but it ended up being like the most perfect thing
Yes.
ever.
Yes.
So usually like the combo ceremony, I guess, is just like one big group of people, but like we ended up, because of this weird scheduling mix up, like just doing it, the two of us.
Yeah. So it was kind of perfect for a Valentine's Day activity because
Oh,
it just had to be us and we didn't have to be in a big group with other people. And it just made the whole ceremony a lot more intimate, not just with us, but also to like actually get to know Todd and like not just be one of, 15 people that are sitting in there.
yeah. And I think he felt really bad, which I didn't really care. Like, really, the only reason that I was just like, oh my gosh, can this get started is because we hadn't eaten since 6 a.m.
Yeah, because we were stolen.
But like, otherwise, it was kind of nice to just like have a space to just chill in. Like, there was nothing for us to do. Like, we
Yeah,
weren't
so
on
we're
our phones. Like, we were just like hanging
just
out.
kind of sitting there, like anxiously waiting, just like, all right.
No, I didn't feel it. I thought it was like nice that we got to just like hang out and have like uninterrupted time to just like.
Yeah, no, it was nice, but I was just like kind of waiting, just like how
You
much
were
longer is
nervous.
this
You were
going to be?
nervous.
I was anxiously nervous, just I didn't know what we were getting ourselves into.
So, anyways, you could tell that they all felt really bad, which I mean, it was fine. So he ended up like chatting with us for like 45 minutes before combo even, like before our
Yeah.
ceremony even started. He ran us through every little thing, every detail, prepped us for us, like really wanted to know our intentions for doing combo, um, where we wanted to get combo. Like we were just able to have this like really awesome conversation with him and like build this trust, and it was just like really cool. Like it worked out
Yeah, and it
so
was
well.
funny because the whole time he was giving his spiel, he was like, "Oh, we just burn you on the arm, like it's really not bad at all." And then like as he started to ask more questions, Kath was like, "Oh yeah, we want to do it on our root chakra," and he was like, "Okay, well I lied. It's actually going to hurt." It's like that's just a much more sensitive spot than your arm, but it really wasn't bad. And uh, so yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah. So the reason that I'd wanted to do it on my root chakra was because in my theta healing certification class, I was like told that my root chakra was like blocked and it needed to be opened and balanced and I needed to do a lot of work on it. And so I was like, okay, well, uh, I saw that Todd does work on the does combo on specific chakras. So I was like, okay, if this is something that I need to work on, then like let's do it. And I had asked Luke, what chakra he wanted, what chakra he wanted to do it on. It doesn't have to go out if he doesn't want to. Sorry, puppy parent problem. His ball is stuck under our guest bed and he really wants it. So currently what we're navigating. But anyways, and I asked Luke what chakra he wanted in, and Luke was not as familiar with the chakras. So I like pulled up a little cheat sheet that I had made for last season of the podcast, and you kind of landed on that's where you wanted it.
Yeah, well, I was just kind of unsure about which one, but I like kind of asked her, I was like, how do you like the chakra? Like, do they flow like from top down or like bottom up? And you
Yeah.
were like, it's bottom up. And I was like, well, might as well start with the first one.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, it's like on the, I mean, it's like basically on your butt crack.
yeah. It's like right on like your tailbone, like right above it.
Like the very bottom. Luke's like definitely went into his butt
Yeah,
crack.
it definitely did.
Mine didn't as much, but it's like really funny. Like the pictures that they took of us, like our butt cracks were just like up in the air. But anyways, so the process. Let's talk about it. So he starts off, obviously, he gave us his whole spiel about what it's going to feel like, what to expect, what's normal, making you feel really comfortable, making you aware what's going on. And then so we were on our own yoga mats. And we were like side by side. And then they provide this like giant bucket that's kind of in front of you, and you're kind of just like sitting there on your mat. And Danielle actually talked about Hoppe in the podcast episode, and Todd uses a specific type of Hoppe at the start of his Kambo ceremonies, and it's like kind of wild. Okay, don't give it back. Like, I'm gonna put it right back under the bed. Okay. Um, Todd. So, anyways, he has this like thing that is like a stick, and like the hot bag goes here, and then it has like two prongs for your nostrils that like kind of goes like that.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Gandalf's pipe in Lord of the Rings, but it has like two little things, and it's like a powder.
You're a nerd, you'll know that.
Yeah, most people know that. So, but yeah, it's a powder, and he blows it up your nose.
And the purpose is to just like get you relaxed, like get you giggly, get you like less anxious. It definitely worked. Luke got a nosebleed.
Oh yeah, so that kind of adds some. The guy Todd was very worried. He's like, "Does this happen to you often?" I'm like, "Not really, but I had a nosebleed like 2 days before, so I was like, it's probably just
Your allergies are so bad.
Yeah,
Your
my
nose
allergies
is like
get bad. So
raw.
yeah, it was.
And like you, I mean, if you know me, like blood totally grosses me out. But like I just like thought it was the funniest thing, like on the hot bay. Like I could not stop laughing that you had a nose.
Yeah, she thought that me bleeding was hilarious.
Okay, it was just like not that part, just like that like I don't know. That I was just like it would happen to you.
It would happen to me.
And it was just like I don't know, I was already giggling. So it was funny. I like got up and like got him some hand sanitizer and tissue. It was like it was just he had to be there.
Typical.
It doesn't sound very funny, but it just was. So yeah, we're like feeling good from this hot bay. It goes like right to your head. You're like so giggly, so relaxed. And then after that, he burns the holes or the gates. Um
Let me get them.
yeah. The holes or the gates into your area that you're going to receive the combo. So, like I said, we wanted the root chakra. So, that was like the base of the spine, the tailbone, butt crack situation. If you close all the way, he will just scratch at the door. Okay, so close all the way. That's where we chose to get it. And he was like, and he burns it with like, it's not incense, but like basically.
Yeah, it looks like the size of like an incense stick.
No, it's small. It's like this big.
Yeah, like the tip of it.
Yeah.
Like it's the tip of an incense stick. Like after you light it, about that big of a thought that
Yeah. And it's just the top layer of the skin. So if you've ever like been chopping stuff and just like a teeny layer of the skin comes off, but you don't bleed.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what it is. It's like the very, very top layer. Like people when they hear like, oh, you burned yourself, like barely.
Yeah, barely. Kind of like I guess if you get like really sunburned and like your skin peels off.
Yeah, like
probably pretty
less painful than that.
Yeah, well, definitely less painful, but probably similar to that.
Yeah. And so he was like the first one, like at the very bottom, like basically in your butt crack. He's like, everybody always like flinches and wiggles. And like I did it. And he was like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just like so ready for it. Like I was not scared at all.
We had already been waiting all morning, and it was kind of just like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, like I was just like so ready. I was like, let's do this. And so he burned the 4 gates, the 4 holes in my skin, and then he did Luke's. And then while you the image is just too funny. While our pants are like
almost
showing our whole butt, and we're keeping these burns like out in the open. We have to chug 1.5 liters to 2 liters of water.
Yeah.
So we're just like face down, butt up, chugging water together.
Yeah, with buckets like right in front of us, like.
Oh, it's just so funny. So then while we're doing that, he's preparing the combo.
Yeah, so he has it on like his little stick thing, and he uses like a little knife to get it off the stick, and he puts it like right on the holes that he just burned on you.
Yeah. So yeah, he puts the secretions on the exact locations of the burns. And the secretions are like the same size as the hole, and it's these little like white
Like wax type pellet things is kind of what they look like.
Yeah. And they have like hundreds of peptides.
Yeah.
Or maybe not hundreds, but like over 100 peptides in them that serve different purposes for the frog and in the human body.
Yeah, and so what he was telling us is that it kind of like whatever peptides your body needs is like the peptides that it will use. So so it was cool. As soon as they put it on, for me, I just instantly like I felt the blood start like rushing to my face and just kind of got like really hot and like kind of nauseous, but like not. It took like a little while to get nauseous, but it was crazy because what we had it on for 25 minutes ish.
I think it was like 28 minutes.
28
total.
minutes, yeah. And it went by like in the snap of a finger. Like it felt like it was only like a few minutes. It was insane.
So like the way that he kind of prepared us for it and the way that it ended up happening was just saying that like, listen, you're gonna get hot. All like Luke said, all the blood is gonna rush to your head.
Yeah.
And
online that says like you get like frog face.
Yeah, your face. Luke's like face was so swollen.
Yeah.
Your eyes were like bulging.
Yeah, they were like bloodshot. Just it was crazy.
But yeah, you get really hot, everything kind of goes to your head, and then you start to feel nauseous because one, like obviously the secretions play a role in that, but two, you just chugged so much water.
Yeah.
That like you're just like full to the brim of water.
Yeah. And so that's one reason why they have you chug water so that, or it's like the whole reason is so that when you are purging, you're not like dry heaving or anything like that, or just like throwing up stomach acid. So it helps it come out much easier.
Yeah. And so I've had a lot of conversations with people of like, that can't be healthy. Like that like smells like bulimia a little bit. And so like I have to say, like, you are not throwing up food.
It's completely, it's not like if if you're like drunk and throwing up, or like if you're sick or throwing up, it's nothing like that.
No, like you're literally, and like, so anyways, okay, we'll get to like what actually happens, but just all that to say, like, it is not like that. Like, that is not the purpose. The purpose of you isn't to like purge what you just ate for dinner, or like,
which is why they make you fast so that you don't have anything in your stomach.
Right. And like yeah, like Luke said, you're not throwing up like stomach acid. Your throw up's not coming out that like yellowy greenish color that can happen. It's not like that at all. So that's why you fast. That's why you drink the water. And it's insane how fast these peptides work and how fast they target the mold, toxins, bacteria, parasites that are in your body. And I don't know if it's because I have like control issues or if I just have like a really high pain tolerance or what the situation was, but like I was nauseous, but like I could not throw up.
Yeah, I was like, I threw up before she did.
Yeah.
And I think that might have
that made me throw up.
The chain reaction.
Yeah. But like, yeah, so like when you're at least for me, like my purge was literally just like 3 purges in a row. It probably took 10 to 30 seconds, like almost no time at all. And it was water and toxins.
Yeah.
Like that was it.
And for me, it was water, and he said it was mold and candida.
Yeah. He like analyzed Luke's a lot
more.
There
were a lot of like little like weird black specks in it. Like it was wild.
Yeah. So like all that to say, like it's not like if you're like, oh, I hate throwing up, why would you do that? It's just not this. It's not the same.
It sounds so much worse than it really is.
Yeah.
Okay. Like like I said, we had it on for like 28 minutes, but it felt for like maybe 5 or 10.
I had no idea it had been on that long.
Like you are uncomfortable, but it's not like pain.
No. And
it's just like slightly annoying.
And the whole time I was just like breathing through and I was like in a meditative state and like telling my body that like it was safe and it was okay and like I wanted to get rid of whatever I could get rid of. And so yeah, I definitely purged a little bit, but I kind of already knew going into it that I would probably be more of a bottom purger than a top purger. So I still did purge, like I said, probably 10 to 30 seconds total of that experience. And then he was like, because he saw like I purged, but it wasn't as nearly as much as Luke did. And so he was like, do you want to like drink a little more water and like see if you want to purge again? And I was like, yeah, sure. And like I waited and I didn't feel like I had to again. So I asked him to take the combo off and he took the combo off both of us and we were done.
Yeah.
And it was like,
and then as soon as he takes it off, as soon as he took the combo off, you're like my face started to go back to normal.
Yeah.
Any nausea that you had instantly goes away.
You know what your face looks like? My nerd reference now. You know, in Harry Potter when they drink the polyjuice potion and their face starts to like bubble up, and that's that's literally what your face looks like. Yeah, it was wild. How bad was mine? I feel like it was not as bad as yours, but I don't know. It wasn't
nearly as bad.
Yeah. And so yeah, that was it. And then he like obviously made sure that we were okay and fine. Like we were really fine. He said the only time people have had like really bad experiences is if they drink too much water.
Yeah, that was actually what he was saying. Like the only people, like nobody's actually died from like the combo itself.
Yeah.
Is that it's usually because people keep like an instructor that doesn't know what they're doing is like forcing somebody to drink like gallons of water.
Yeah. No, like liters.
Yeah. Yeah. Gallons of beer.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. Science. So yeah, so afterwards he was just like, how to go, how you feel, and like, you know, it's hard to know how you feel afterwards. Like, I didn't feel that different after, you know, like
we were both exhausted.
Yeah.
Like tired, and it helped that since he didn't have another group after us, since we had to wait so long, anyways, that we got to kind of just like hang out with him.
Yeah.
For what, like another 45 minutes, an hour.
It was a long time.
Listen.
He was just talking to us.
Yeah, and just kind of listen, like just get to know him a little bit more, get to know like how he got into Kambo and kind of his story. So it really helped and just kind of made the process a lot easier.
Yeah. And so he was talking to us about like, because you know, obviously with the podcast, my like first thing after like I met him and we had talked to him for, you know, 45 minutes before, and then he led us through the whole ceremony and you know, whatever. I was like, okay, I have to get you on the podcast. Like, tell me everything. And so he was just like, okay. So he started telling us stories about like people he's helped. And, you know, Luke obviously did some research and I knew a little bit about it from Danielle. But like I was by no means like an expert in Kambo. And I was like really curious about like who commonly goes to him to get Kambo.
Yeah.
And so he was talking about like he specializes in mold and Lyme disease. Like those are his two specialties. And that's like what the majority of people who come to him are trying to get rid of mold toxicity or heal from Lyme disease.
Yeah. Or like people who had cancer and gone through chemo and now they want to purge the chemo out of their body.
Yeah.
And then I guess people that have like addictions as well have come to him, but that wasn't as big a proportion.
No, he didn't really focus too much on like telling us stories about that, but he was saying that there is like a peptide in these frog secretions that like start to rebuild people's opioid receptors in the brain, which I thought was crazy.
Yeah.
But the one story that like really stuck with me was he was talking about, you know, when we were talking about mold and he was talking about cancer and all that stuff. He was saying that he has been serving Kambo to a like younger person who was diagnosed with leukemia and they believe that the leukemia could be traced back to a mold toxicity. And that like really hit home for me because I don't know if I've ever talked about like this specific piece of Trisha's journey and like my journey with her, but before she was diagnosed with leukemia, she was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called myasthenia gravis. And when she was dealing with the myasthenia gravis, she went to like, I forget, she went to the beach or something and like came back to her apartment after like a week or a couple weeks or a month, I don't know, some period of time. And like her closet, everything in her closet was covered in mold. Her like vent was covered in mold. Like she had this like crazy mold outburst and like I she thought that it was just because she hadn't been like living in it that it like finally like took over, but like who knows how long she was living
Yeah, for mold to
in
grow
a
that
mold.
fast, it was definitely within the walls and everything.
Right, like right. And so, you know, her doctors like prescribed her something to start to help detox the mold, and she, her where her apartment building like put her up in a new place, and like she got out of there relatively quickly, but like like you said, like it had to
Yeah,
have
it
been
had to have been.
bad. And like how long was she dealing with that? I think she lived in that apartment for like 2 years.
Yeah.
um and so then years after dealing with that mold incident, she was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And so I was just like, whoa, like what are the odds that this guy, this random guy that we found to do Kambo for us, is telling us this story about the connection between mold and leukemia months after
Yeah.
Trish passed away. Like it was just like
Definitely hit home.
so crazy.
Kind of going back to the whole thing of, when Danielle told you, like, Combo will find you, it just kind of adds another.
Karen actually.
Oh, that was Karen. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, sorry. Adds another layer to that whole aspect of it.
Yeah. Um, sorry, you can hear that. We're a mess today. Um, but yeah, so it just yeah, it hit home a lot. And I was like, I'm meant to be here, but like also other emotions of like, why didn't I know about this sooner? Why didn't I find out about this modality when she was still alive? Like a lot of those thoughts and feelings definitely like came to play during that conversation.
Yeah, it definitely did.
Yeah. So that was like crazy. And then you want to talk about how he was saying that somebody purged an entity.
Oh yeah, so that was the one, naturally as a guy, I don't really have, as big of an emotional connection, but I just thought this was very interesting that he was saying there was one guy that he had that had Combo on him for like 5 hours and he wouldn't purge it all. And it was a guy I think that like used to be a bodybuilder and had like addiction issues, and that he after having it on for 5 to 6 hours, he like finally ended up purging. But like right before he did, he said the guy like jumped like across the room and everything he threw up was just like pure black. So he thinks it was an entity. So
Crazy.
kind of spooky.
And that kind of like goes on theme with this week's episode with Danielle because she talks about doing an exorcism.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, it's just wild. Like the amount of things that this friggin' frog secretion has been seen to help with is crazy. And so kind of at the end of our conversation, I was telling him that like I have dealt with parasites before, and I think that this would help with that. So he had recommended that we do hot saunas to keep like the toxins coming out, and drink activated charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got that. And then I forget why he wanted us to drink dandelion root tea.
I think it was just to help with more of the detox, kind of with like the activated charcoal.
Yeah. So those were kind of the three things that he had recommended for us specifically to do.
Yes, right after.
Or after, and like to continue to do. So yeah, that was our experience with modern Kambo. Todd was so great. Like I have nothing but good things to say about him and the experience that he provided us. Dara with Natural Infusion Partners was so great. It's really cool that she's bringing this to her practice and allowing people in our community to experience this. Like, I don't know of anybody else in Dallas who has set up a space for this.
Yeah.
So I just feel really grateful for the two of them. And like we said, it ended up like being perfect that we had to wait and that it was just the two of us and that like we got to like
because then we got to actually
in our own piece.
And like actually ask him questions. You know, if it would have been like us and 10 other people, you know, we just wouldn't have been asking him nearly as much.
Yeah.
It just would have felt more of like, I don't know, more of like a doctor visit in a sense of like you just go in and get out. Where this time, just you know, you actually got to talk to him.
Yeah.
It, like I said earlier, it just made the whole experience a lot more intimate and it was kind of perfect for Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So that was February 17th, like we said, and I think Luke had said before, like afterwards we were just so exhausted. One, because we were starving. It was like 4 o'clock by the time we left.
Yeah, we were there for
and we got there at like 12:40.
Yeah.
So we were starving and exhausted. So yeah, we just like ate and like watched a movie on the couch that night and chilled. And then we're kind of just like waiting to see like what would happen. Like the peptides keep working in your body.
Yeah, he said for like at least a month.
Yeah.
After you do it.
I'm sure it's different for everybody. But like yeah, it keeps working. And so you know, Danielle had said on the show that like her and her husband experiences a lot of things like after Kambo. Like it's not just
it's not just the purge.
It's not just that time.
Especially with us doing like the root chakra, it like helped or tied into our emotions a lot more. And
well, so for people who don't know, the root chakra is like your foundational chakra and it has to do with like your basic needs. So you're feeling safe, secure, having all of your basic needs met. And it's also like the foundation for all of the other chakras. So if your root chakra is out of balance, like that means that you know, your sense of self, your intuition, your connection, your creativity, your heart, your voice, like all of them could be thrown off balance. So like there's a lot of stuff that goes into starting to heal the root. And Luke's trying to get this ball again. But I really want him to talk about because he saw the most like immediate results.
Yeah.
Mine took longer.
Yeah. So like immediately, like the next day I had already had scheduled like going to go hang out with a couple buddies, go to like a bar and just kind of, you know, hang out and drink like we normally do. And it just like it was so weird the next day, like granted, just because Todd said like you shouldn't drink, like it'll get rid of like kind of I like the clear headedness. So I definitely had like a more clear mind, but like going there, it was weird just sitting in the bar of like I didn't want to drink. I didn't have any desire to.
Well,
I just
also it wasn't safe. Like
he
was talking about how it reboots your like liver and so it reboots your tolerance. And so he had said that like
his wife one time had like a glass of wine.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 margaritas and had to get her stomach pumped because she had no tolerance.
Yeah, no tolerance to it. So, but like that wasn't really as much of what was worrying me. Just because it was like all I had was beer. It's not like I was trying to take tequila shots. But like the point of it is that like I didn't want to drink really. Like my buddies had like a couple beers and I had only drank like a quarter of it. And it just it was weird just because a lot of it also like it just kind of made me realize kind of like some of my own like vices, you know, between like drinking and nicotine and marijuana of like just not really wanting to do those as much.
Yeah, you also like were so much less bloated.
Oh yeah, the next like I instantly like I dropped a belt loop size the next day. So it was wild.
Yeah.
It's like to see that physical change instantly. And yeah, it was just a great experience. Like I've never done anything like it as far as like all the plant medicines and stuff. I guess this is animal, but it was cool just seeing it so instantly happen.
Yeah. Yeah, yours was really crazy. I did not notice as much, but I also bottom purged a
Yeah,
lot in the next few days. There were for sure some creepy crawlers
yeah.
coming out.
In mine, like I bottom purged as well, but it was like right after we left Natural Infusion Partners. Like we were getting a smoothie, and I was like, I have to go.
Yeah, mine, I don't know. I don't know why, if I'm like just my body was like holding on to so much and like really didn't want to let go, but it took me days, if not a week,
Yeah,
to feel like I completely purged bottom wise. And if you're interested in knowing like what to look for in your stool for parasites, hit me up. I'm not gonna dive into that here, but it was crazy. And you had like a lot of the same looking parasites that I did.
yeah, yeah. I did like the little red ones, and
The
then
flukes.
yeah, the flukes, and then whatever the little white ones are.
Yeah. Um, so that was crazy. And mine just took a little bit longer, which is also sort of to be expected because I've done a lot more work detoxing, a lot
Yeah,
more work
she's definitely a lot cleaner person
on
compared to me.
all that stuff. So I think that that also like could have played a role in it, but I also think my body was like very reluctant to releasing.
Yeah,
And I'm not sure why that is. I'm sure there's many different potential explanations for it, but it just took me longer. But I definitely like at the beginning of it when we were like obviously being a lot more cognizant of how we were because everybody had that we had talked to just said like it's gonna change your life. And so we're like, okay, I'm waiting for my life to be changed. Like, just like looking a lot more, but like I think what that Sunday, so we did it on a Friday, and that Sunday we took our favorite yoga class,
oh yeah,
and I was crushing it. Like these classes usually like kick my behind. Um, and I killed it.
and she actually like
Oh
really
yeah.
started sweating. Like she
Oh
usually
yeah.
doesn't sweat a whole lot hearing
Mhm.
it. Well, I'm the opposite. I'm just like drenched in sweat. It looks like I just got out of a pool with all my clothes on.
Yeah.
So, but like that was a noticeable difference. Like
Oh
she was
yeah.
actually
My mat
sweating.
had like legit sweat drops on it,
Yeah,
which like never
yeah.
happens.
And like when you do a sauna blanket, you're like, there's been multiple times she's done it for like over 30 minutes. You're like, I'm still not sweating, or like I just started. And it
Yeah.
was like immediately whenever you did it after
That's
combo.
so true. Yeah. So yeah, I just felt like so much energy. I felt so good. Like this yoga class is hard. It's like a boot camp and it's
Yeah,
hot yoga. So it's like 90 plus degrees in there.
yeah,
And I was just like on it, killing it, whatever. So that was like the first like real noticeable thing. And then yeah, the sweating part too. I was like, oh my gosh, like it felt like my like detox pathways were like unlocked.
yeah. And it's because that's just something that like like I said, I always sweat a lot, so I just don't understand. So I'm like, how do you not sweat? Like it's that simple. Just
Yeah. And then like that day I was like posting on my close friends about it. And I like went to take a selfie to talk about the class, and I felt like my jawline was a lot more defined. Like there was much less like bloating in my face. I still kind of feel that way. Like I
yeah.
feel like it's still more defined. Anything else that you noticed in the next couple of days?
Well, I guess I was a lot more like introspective on like how my body feels, like what I was putting into it. I don't know how much of that was really because the combo or more of like just placebo effect of like trying to want to be healthier, but I just felt a lot more in tuned. And like whenever I'd stretch or go like when I was working out, I felt just like I was a lot more in tune with my body, kind of
Yeah.
more so like not like As if like the noise, like there's noise like in your mind was just like gone, and I could just like just kind of concentrate on like my activities at hand.
Yeah. Um, and then like I feel like the next thing, like I noticed those kind of immediate like physical things that like Luke kind of experienced, like I said, like more energy, clearer head, less bloating, more sweating, like all those were like physical that I noticed not immediately, but within the first week. Um, but then 2 weeks after we did Kambo, I went home to Delaware and I developed over 2020 like really bad anxiety in general, but like really bad flying anxiety. And only when there's turbulence. Like I'm not like nervous, like going through security or like getting on a plane or like being on a plane, but like when there's turbulence, I would literally basically have panic attacks. Like it was so bad, you know.
Yeah, no, you always grip me every time that we're on a plane. Like
Yeah.
I'm like half asleep most of the time, and she's just like grabbing my arm, like punching it.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, I just like my body was just, I don't know if it was just in such bad fight or flight that like that just sent me into overdrive or what. But like, I was straight up like panicking every time there was turbulence on a flight. So, anyways, this is like my first flight since doing Kambo. And it was my first flight alone in a while because last year we traveled so much together for weddings and stuff. Um, but yeah, and the entire flight was turbulent. Like they didn't even start service of like, the drinks and the snacks until like an hour into the flight because there was such bad turbulence from the get-go. And obviously, like it's uncomfortable. Like no one enjoys turbulence, but like I did not feel that like panic or that like extreme anxiety or nervousness. And I was just like, oh my gosh, something has changed. Like it was wild.
Yeah.
Um, so that was like huge. That was huge. Like that was like a tangible thing that I was like, before this would drive me over the freaking edge. Now, yeah, I don't like it, but I still was able to work. I was still able to read my book.
Yeah, you didn't let it like overcome you.
Right. Like, oh yeah, like usually I can't do anything when it's turbulent, except for like pray, because I'm like freaked out that much. Uh, so that was huge. And then trying to think like what else, because that experience home, I feel like was when like a lot of the emotional
Yeah, I feel
stuff.
like that's really when it started for you
Yeah.
with being home and starting on your emotions and talks with people and
Yeah. Yeah, it was just kind of crazy. Like my friends kind of know that like I've been calling Kambo like truth serum for the last couple of weeks because on this trip, I was, with a lot of my family and family friends, and they would ask me questions. And not that like I've ever like lied to my family and friends. Like that's so not it, but like
there's a time and a place for conversations. And it's just kind of easier to be like, no, let's not dive into this right now.
yeah, like, oh no, it's fine, or like, just like sugarcoating things, or like, yeah, being like socially, and I don't know, like, you know what I mean? It's not like I've ever like lied to my friends and family, but it's just like not just like being blunt,
Yeah.
you know? And so there was an experience where I was out to dinner with my aunts and my cousin, and we just had like a really awkward encounter. And instead of just being like, oh yeah, that was an awkward encounter, I was like, and like kind of like brushing it under the rug, I was like, so that was really freaking weird for me, and here's why.
Yeah.
And just like spewed it out to them, and they were all like shocked that I like, one, to learn this information, but two, to just hear me talk like that. I feel like because that's just like not, or wasn't really me. Like I'm very go with the flow. I'm very non-confrontational. No, yeah.
Kind of typical like not like it's small talk, but you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, doing great, even though like might not be.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely have always been like more conscious of like how other people are feeling and making sure that they feel comfortable in situations
Yeah.
than like myself. And that was like the first time where I was like, no, I'm uncomfortable and these people should know. And I was like really shocked by
Yeah.
that behavior. Um, and there was like another time at dinner at my grandmother's that my aunts were like asking me questions, and I just like straight up told them that like some things were like not great or kind of bothering me. And it ended up like opening up the conversation to be like awesome. And instead of feeling like bad, like I created this like uncomfortable situation, like they were so awesome and like wanted to give me advice and like wanted to hear more. And like I feel like it created like better connections with them than
Yeah, instead of just like brushing it under the rug or acting like nothing's happening.
yeah, yeah. And like, yeah, it just like facilitated deeper connections. And again, I think everyone was like really surprised to hear what I had to say. But I just think too often in social settings, unless you are like one on one with somebody and or you're like on a phone call with them for a purpose, we don't have these like
Yeah.
deep
Like, yeah,
conversations.
real conversations. It's kind of more just like, oh, what are you watching now? Oh, like, if there's sport on, talking about that or stuff, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? For guys at least.
Or like, like I know your family and my family have talked about politics a lot, but like not really like how that personally impacts them, just like talking
Just
shop,
ranting
like
political.
yeah, like so it's not necessarily like connecting on that deep meaningful level. And I don't know, I feel like something in my brain switched where I was like I don't have time to not say what's really on my mind,
Yeah.
you know.
Because life is short.
Yeah. And so like that has definitely trickled into like our relationship and kind of like we both got this combo on our root chakra, like our foundation. And I feel like some stuff that has been like really bothering both of us about our relationship at like
Yeah. Like
more foundational
yeah, instead of just
pieces.
bottling it up, we've like actually been able to talk about it
Yeah.
and have real honest conversations.
Yeah. Because I mean, we're both so busy. Like it's so easy. And like a lot of our relationship is great. So it's like, it's so easy to not
Yeah, well, and it's like,
focus
you're working
on,
all day and I get home late and like we eat dinner and do that. And it's like the last thing you want to do at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night is have like an intense conversation.
yeah, but
But
that's kind of what we've been doing for the
yeah,
last
because that's like,
couple of
I work all
weeks.
day and she works all day. So that's just really when we see each other.
Or like in the morning on your way to work, like talking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of just like these things that we've been able to ignore just because like life is busy and like we do have like a good relationship. We like can't ignore them anymore.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been hard.
Yeah, it's been hard, but I think it's also been for the better.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that if we weren't having these conversations, like our relationship would last.
Yeah. And like it's just stuff that you have to talk about. You can
Yeah.
only avoid it for so long because you're
Yeah.
quote unquote busy.
Yeah. So that has been like really huge. And that has been, I mean, not great, but like also necessary.
Yeah, not great, but like it has to be done. So it's in the like it's a good thing. If
Yeah.
like hard conversations so then you don't want to have them. It makes you better in the long run.
Totally. And we've both like had some action steps that like we both have kind of decided that we need to like work on to become better and to grow as individuals as well as together. And I mean, I hope that like we would have done this without the combo, but like I feel like the combo made it like top priority.
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah, and like you said, you hope we would have done it with Kambo with out Combo, but at the same time, like, relationships are tricky and everything. And like, if you don't have certain conversations early enough, like stuff can just kind of spiral out of control.
Yeah. So that was like an unexpected. I mean, I guess it was kind of expected because in Danielle's episode, she had talked about how Combo saved her marriage.
And Todd had a similar story.
Reverse.
Yeah, reverse, but similar story with a past relationship of his. So it was kind of like,
Yeah.
Oh, well, how's this going to affect us now?
Right.
Like, and that's kind of the thing. Like before Combo, when he was just telling it to us, at least for me, it was kind of like, oh, well, yeah, this is interesting, but let's not think about that right now because we're about to do Combo.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, it just kind of took a little while. And I think like with the truth serum more hitting you, because I feel like you had a lot more of an emotional cleanse from Combo this time, where for me it was a lot more like physical. Not that it wasn't mental, but just in different aspects. And I think maybe that goes back to kind of more like how you were saying, like you've just been doing cleanses and stuff before, where I haven't been. So I think, we'll see how it goes this next time around, but I'm definitely expecting a little bit more emotional stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to physical.
Yeah, that's so true. And obviously I'm just like such an emotional person. So
yeah, and
I
naturally
think that plays a big role in it. So yeah, that has been like a lot that's been going on. And I feel like that has been like top priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's forced us to make our relationship more of a top priority as opposed to like, well, we're in this together and like not worried about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like forcing us to kind of put in the work.
Yeah, totally.
As like we just mentioned multiple times, like it was always like, well, we're busy. Well,
Yeah. And yeah, it's just, I mean, it's just so, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people watching this know, like, it's just so easy when you have work and friends and family and hobbies. It's like so easy. And, we've been in wedding season for the last 2 years. And it's not stopping. And so there's all these like other priorities with our finances and time and like, yeah, it's easy to not make your relationship a priority.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we've been able to take away from that. And then, I've just been like seeing this with like my relationship with Melissa with the podcast and like when we're having like disagreements and like we've had to like have like a lot of like foundational conversations about like our goals for the show and how we want to promote the podcast and who we want on the show and what we want to come across and like all of these conversations and like our individual roles for our business together that like we didn't really have before, not because we were like avoiding it, but just because there were so many other things that felt like a priority. But like again with the combo, I was like, no, this has to be the priority. Yeah. And it's crazy how it all kind of is going back to like foundations. And I hadn't even really thought about this until right now, but in the episode, Danielle talks about that like a lot of people who bottom purge, a lot of that is because it's at the root, at the base, and it's foundational and has to do with family. And I think it's interesting that my like emotional purge started with my family.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think, it kind of naturally would need to be,
Yeah.
kind of think of like if anything that is blocked, like there's always the first thing that's blocking it, and then everything else builds up.
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean? And when you
Yeah.
release that one first big thing, everything else just kind of starts flowing through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's crazy too. Like my dad and I were able to have this like really intense, but good, like not like a fight or anything, just like, I guess intense might not be the word, like deep and meaningful conversation together. Too, and kind of just like talking about like our priorities and what matters to us and like experiences that we went through and like how that has like impacted us going forward. And I think that that has been like a huge, like you're so right, like talking about how this experience that I kind of had opened up to my aunts and my cousin about, then reflecting on like how that has changed me as a person and like how that like changed how I showed up in relationships has then made me like think, how am I still doing that? And I feel like that's why it's been like so imperative for us to have those conversations about like my feelings and how I show up, and in business and my feelings and how I show up, because I like learned that I like really abandoned myself for a really long time because I didn't think that I was like worthy of time and attention. And so like my survival mechanism was to like take care of everybody else and like put everyone else's needs first and like hear everyone else's opinion. And like I kind of said at the beginning, like really be go with the flow and kind of just,
Yeah. Don't want to start drama. But yeah, it's like more ignoring yourself.
yeah. And that I realized that I just like can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to like put yourself as more of a priority.
Well, as like the priority.
Yeah. That's supposed to be like selfless all the time.
Yeah.
Selfish now.
Yeah, honestly, it's so weird, but like I think that like I am called selfless all the time. Like all the time. I feel like that's like one of the number one compliments that I get. And like now that kind of gives me the ick. Like I don't want anybody to say that I'm selfless.
Yeah.
It's like literally selfless.
Yeah.
Yourself is less.
Yeah. Because you're not making yourself a priority.
Yeah. And like, of course, I still want to be called like generous and kind and compassionate and empathetic, but like,
But you can still be all those and still
not
make
be
yourself a priority.
selfless.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate that now, which is so weird. I used to love that compliment. Like that compliment used to like make me feel so good.
Yeah. But yeah, well, it's just as you grow up and change and it starts to really impact you more,
Yeah.
it's just different.
Yeah. So true. So yeah, I just have like a bunch of notes here about like self-reflections about what past experiences have forced me to believe about myself. And I bullet pointed something's wrong with me. I'm not worthy of love. I have to people please, self-abandonment, and having a lack of identity. I mean, that's been something I've been grappling with, I would say, since high school, of just like not really knowing who I am, or like
Yeah. It's kind of hard.
what I want to be, who I want to be, like that like identity piece. I feel like I've been like doing a lot of work on for years. And I'm like, I think this is like the other part about doing it on the root and at the foundation, like everything that I have buried and like stuck down because I was in that fight or flight and like have to keep going. Like you have no choice but to like keep moving forward. And so I just like buried all these emotions. Like I didn't even realize that I was like having those thoughts of like something's wrong with me or I'm not worthy of love, because it was all just like squished.
Yeah. You kept it down for so long.
For so long. And I feel like a really like tangible example of that is recently with the school shooting in Nashville. And I was like full body reaction to that. And like, of course, everybody is going to say that that's horrible and be sad and feel for those families. Like, of course. But like, I was like internalizing that tragedy and like was so upset about it. And I was like, why is this like a full body reaction for me and not just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible and I'm sad. And I realized that this stemmed back from my first year teaching when there was the Parkland school shootings. And I had to talk about it with my class. And we did a lot of, we did a whole like week-long lesson, and we analyzed videos and news articles and read stuff that the school was putting out. And like the final like project of that week was like all my kids wrote letters to the survivors from that shooting and like express their sadness or whatever. And during that week I had conversations with kids about how they wanted me to have a gun in the classroom. and how they wanted our school to have police officers and metal detectors and how they didn't feel safe and they were scared. And that whole time I had to bury all of my own feelings.
Yeah.
Because I was the adult.
Yeah, because you're the adult and like, you just graduated college.
I was 22.
Like, you're still, a young adult, like still not really knowing what's going on. And you have to, put your big girl pants on in front of these kids and just like act like you have all the answers.
Yeah. And that I'm not afraid and that I'm not grappling with some of these same questions. And, it's just, and I like realized that like I buried that so deep because I was scared, when my school in that same, you know, time frame after that had a lockdown after school, like during last period that went into like after school. And I like just remember being up there on the classroom, like pretending like everything was totally fine and just like wondering, like, am I gonna have to like put my life on the line for these kids?
Yeah.
Like, it's so scary.
Yeah, it's scary stuff to think about, especially when you're in a school that's,
So,
what, just the type of school that you were in, like
okay.
stuff like that could happen.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's just like one example of like the many, many things I feel like in the last month and a half that have been like coming up and that I've had to like really work through. Because it's not buried anymore. It's like
Yeah, it's coming up.
It's coming up. Like the combo, whatever, however it's working, is like you need to deal with all this stuff that you buried. If you want your root chakra to be unlocked and if you want to heal and you want to like keep going.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been like brutal. Like I feel like I've been like emotional like every day.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like as much as like, when somebody like when I was doing the research talking about like the purging, the throwing up, but like nothing that I really read talked about like the emotional and the mental health aspect of it. And I think that's really at least my biggest takeaway is like I haven't been as emotional with Kath, but I think also like Kath has always been more in tune with her feelings. And as like a typical guy, just like not talking about feelings and trying to learn how to has been more of
Yeah.
mine. It's like you had, like a pathway that's been blocked. And for me, it's more like I just don't have a pathway or don't know the pathway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited to do Kambo again for sure. I think it will be another great experience.
Yeah. Do you feel like since then, like you're seeing a path develop?
Yeah, definitely. Like working on it, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? But like it's just kind of like everything that we've talked about. It's just more of like figuring out as like a guy how to actually communicate your feelings.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like lashing out in like anger or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Like actually understanding your emotions instead of just like getting really pissed off and road rage all the time. It's like, well, why are you always getting pissed off? You know what I mean? Like,
has your road rage changed at all?
we really haven't had any, but
That's kind of crazy.
yeah, it is. But I was kind of working on it anyways, just because I know it always pissed you off. So I was trying to work on it. But
No,
yeah.
I haven't really noticed like when we've been on the phone.
No, because it used to happen a lot. But I was getting better on that kind of on my own anyways. But
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's not nearly as intense. Just yeah, trying to have more of a hold on my own emotions and trying to like actually explore myself.
I mean, I think it's less of having a hold on them and more of like figuring out where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's just kind of some of the more work still to be done of, and kind of exploring more of like what, like Kath talked a lot kind of just recently on like the way, why were you so selfless and like the reasons of like kind of who you are, and it's kind of started that path for me of like, why I am the way I am.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, it's like, it's you,
Yeah.
kind of more just like, you are the sum of, your life's decisions and everything that's happened to you.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, gosh, I don't remember it's that, or was it on our podcast or did I listen to it? I don't know. I with our podcast and me listening to so many podcasts lately, sometimes it all gets jumbled in my head, but somewhere someone talked about your personality not being permanent.
Yeah, I'm like
Was it Dr. D? I think it was Dr. D on our podcast. I'm gonna say I think it was talking about how your personality is not permanent and like everyone thinks like just what you said, like you just are how you are.
yeah, like as if it's more like genetics,
Yeah.
or, something along those lines.
And that like while that was in like, we interviewed him last year. That episode came out in January and we did Kambo in the middle of February. So it's not like I really had this realization before, but like that seed being planted of like, I don't have to just be the way that I am.
Yeah.
Like you're we're all malleable.
Yeah, like
we
when
can
people,
all grow and change.
yeah, like when people say like, oh, people can't change, like that's complete horseshit.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, like, yeah, some people refuse to change, but if you're not changing, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, like, what are you doing with your life? Just like staying stagnant, doing the same stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Like in your younger 20s, it's like a lot more fun to like, get really drunk and go out with your friends and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like as you start to get older, at least for me, like, maybe it's not as fun to do that.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like it's like exciting then, but then it just gets so old because you're not building any meaningful relationships or connections.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to see if there's like anything that we skipped over that we had like wanted to talk about. I think I kind of hit this point too of just like finding my own voice and like being able to like have these conversations and not feel guilty about them. Because I think I've had hard conversations before. It's not like my whole life I've just been like avoiding confrontation.
Yeah.
But the amount of like fear that I would experience before them and the amount of guilt that I would experience after them, I have not felt that at all. Like it's just like I said, it's literally just been like truth serum. Like I'm not even thinking about the honest shit that's coming out of my mouth. Like it's just happening and I don't have any regrets
like
after I say, there's no overthinking.
Just kind of let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. What else? I talked about the better athletic performance. But actually another thing that I just really want to touch on because I know that we've been talking for so long, is like looking in the mirror and like appreciating how I look.
Yeah, your own self-confidence.
Yeah, and like I weighed myself for the first time in a while, like after doing Kambo, and I'm the exact same weight as I was.
Yeah.
The last time I weighed myself, whenever that was. So it's not like anything has physically changed. I have, but like I'm just saying, like I don't think Kambo moved the needle for me in any way of like how I physically look, except for, like I said, maybe like a little less bloating in the face, but like I think it moved the needle in my brain of like less inflammation or less negativity or like changed my dopamine receptors. I don't know, but like
self-talk.
Yeah. Like I like look in the mirror and I'm like what I see instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to get cellulite, or oh my gosh, like my boobs used to be a little bit perkier. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm just not having those thoughts. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this body's awesome. And it helps me to, like I said, work out or lift stuff, or like my brain helps me keep going. Like I just feel like so much more appreciation that used to be cluttered with like
self-doubt.
I wish, or if only. Yeah, that's been kind of cool. That is good. Yeah, have you felt that at all?
Not as much really, but I think that's like I was saying, like why I want to do Kambo again. I think we're just you were at a farther along starting point than me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like that's what I'm really excited for.
Yeah. So we're doing it the end of April. And I'm planning to do it on my 2 on my solar plexus chakra and 2 on my sacral chakra.
Okay.
I think you'll do that too.
Yeah, probably just do the same. Might as well. Oh no, kind of talking through this right now. I was kind of thinking of maybe doing the root chakra again, but I don't know. We'll see.
I wonder if they would recommend that.
I don't know. I'll talk to him.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I have no idea
I have
if
no
they
clue
recommend
either.
you doing it in the same spot or not.
Yeah, I would imagine probably doing it another spot just to do it. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Is there anything else in your like list?
I guess it did help with my allergies there at the very beginning. Uh, with it being February and it was starting to warm up here in Dallas. But, now just because like you see all the green pollen everywhere, I think it's kind of flared back up.
Yeah.
But for a while there, like I wasn't having to take my allergy pills or anything.
Yeah. Anything else? Any final thoughts, reflections?
Uh, no, just for anybody that's like really skeptical about Kambo, like obviously I was, like it's not nearly as intense as it sounds. And I know we even said intense like stuff today, but it was a lot of fun and I would recommend it for anybody. And I think it's just another tool to put in the toolbox for like anybody that's like, trying to really improve their own life and their own health.
Yeah.
So, and not just physical for Kambo, but like mental, like obviously has helped a lot.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the physical stuff was cool. Like, obviously, I mean, it's amazing to see myself sweating more and like seeing that, or to like feel as bloated for both of us, or, the other like kind of physical things. But like the stuff that like has felt life changing is the mental, emotional pieces of like being more confident, understanding the roots of like some of my insecurities and the way that I am, like having really important conversations, um, not being as anxious or overthinking. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah. No, and for me to like kind of start to want to like, you know, figure out why I am the way I am and like kind of have some of the start the conversation, have those,
Yeah.
is like a really big step for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. And at the end of the day, like I don't know how much of it like really is purely because of Kambo
Right.
or if it's more the placebo effect of like it's just making you want to be better as a person and work on yourself. But regardless, it works. So
Yeah. So yeah, that's our journey. I'm sure we'll have another update for you in another like 3 months after our second round. We are doing it again at Natural Infusion Partners with Modern Combo. He's 27.
27th, okay. So like a month from now.
Yeah. So yeah, we're really big fans of them and they've been so great. They checked in on us a couple of times afterwards.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sending emails asking how we're doing.
Yeah. So yeah, like really good experience. I've definitely learned a lot. And I mean, it's a journey. It's still happening. Obviously, we're doing it again. But yeah, like Luke said, I think that it's something though that you have to be ready to do.
Yeah.
And not in the sense of like the experience. Like, yeah, like it sounds insane. It's really not. It's like really not that bad. It feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And I think you're 100% right. Like, especially for the more emotional side, like, I think you were just a lot more ready to go through it. And for me, it's like it's helped me. And just kind of seeing your progress makes me want to go through it.
Yeah.
As opposed to, just following it all up and like, being a typical guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me or.
Yeah. No, you just have to be willing to surrender to wherever these peptides go, because as Todd and Danielle both said, like they have their own like smarts, intuition, whatever.
Yeah, like you saying, it's like as if your body like knows what it needs.
Yeah.
And it uses, what it's given.
Yeah. So the medicine goes where it needs to go and it starts to do what it needs
the medicine
to do.
For what it, out of all, it's as if it's a multi-tool and it's like deciding to use like just like the screwdriver or like the knife part of it,
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. I'm definitely
so yeah, you just have to be open to whatever the frog secretions and the peptides go, and the lessons that it teaches you along the way, and really take that time to be introspective. I journaled a lot in my journal, as well as I like wanted to talk to people about it, but I didn't want to like be texting people about it all the time or like calling people about it all the time, because one, I just don't have time for that. And two, I feel like the people who want to talk about it will. So I like put a lot of the stuff that we talked about today on my close friends story, and let like, I don't know, however many people I have on my close friends like along this journey with us. And like those saved stories are kind of like a public journal
Yeah.
for me as well, to like bring people in along the way, as well as invite them into receiving the reflections I'm having and be there for me, as well as relate to what I'm saying, like the experience that I talked to my aunts about. So many people replied and were like, I went through the same thing.
And hopefully some people seeing that helps them start some of their own conversations.
Right.
Even without Kambo.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have, I mean, you don't have to have Kambo to start to reflect and analyze. This was just a tool that clearly really helped us.
Yeah. And unknowing
Yeah.
of Kambo. Even though like it's kind of funny because Todd just mentioned stuff about it a lot. But
Yeah.
like, I guess for me it wasn't really registering as much.
Yeah.
I was just always more focused on the physical aspects.
I mean, same. I mean, my intention going in was to detox.
Yeah. 100%.
You know, but I guess detoxing emotions and traumas that you've buried,
yep,
counts.
Still very beneficial.
Yeah. So, anyways, if you've watched this whole thing, I'm impressed.
Kudos to you.
And you probably noticed that our dog stopped finally wanting to get the stinking ball thrown to the bed. Sorry that you had to endure that piece. But that's just real life. And this is our real experience. So,
yeah. So we hope y'all enjoyed it, and hopefully you want to go do Kambo, but you know, obviously make sure it's somebody that you trust. And
right. Yeah. Yeah. Make sure it's a reputable practitioner. And I think there's like there's only a few like illnesses or diseases that he said he won't work, like Kambo practitioners won't work on.
Yeah, there's only several few, but so just be careful, but you should definitely try it
or check it out, or you know, if you have more questions, feel free to reach out
to Modern Kambo,
and reach out to Modern Kambo or Natural Infusion Partners.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.